going to be checking out some Kirby lore. Not I guess not some Kirby lore, all of Kirby's lore, which is something I never actually thought about. I fuck with Kirby. I like Kirby in Super Smash Bros. That was like my main when I first started ever playing. So now it's time to learn about things, you know, going in completely blind. I know absolutely nothing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know down in the comments what else you guys want me to react to. Let's get into it. This video contains spoilers for all the Kirby games. I don't think I've ever played a Kirby game.
Long ago, in a time before pink puffs and air rides, there lived the ancients, an entire civilization completely shrouded in mystery, save for a few key relics they left behind. But who cares about any of that, because on an unrelated planet far away,
it's a
there
720
lived
video.
an innocent pink puff named Kirby, a being of unlimited power who usually likes to spend his days eating, sleeping, or some variation of the two. However, this would all change when a certain self-proclaimed monarch would steal all the food in Dreamland,
You foul villain!
creating a rivalry that would be sure to last an eternity, or at least when they felt like it. As while King Dedede would be the first antagonist in the Kirby timeline, he'd soon transition into less of an actual villain and more of an ally slash punching bag for Kirby to wail on in just about every game in the series.
Ally?
Since whether it be Dedede trying to prevent Kirby from releasing an actual nightmare demon, or just being possessed by an otherworldly force, this king never seems to catch a break. Though speaking of possession, that brings us to our first real piece of Kirby lore, Dark Matter. First revealing itself in Kirby's Dreamland 2, Dark Matter is an amorphous dark entity, more often than not taking the form of a black sphere with an eye in the center. At first, especially in its debut, Dark Matter seemed to be a pretty simple antagonist, what with its only goal being to shroud the world in darkness. If anything,
destroy everything.
The most sinister thing about Dark
Kirby,
Matter
you got that
is
shit.
the fact that it could possess whoever it wanted to
Black
do its
Divider,
will, including and usually limited to King Dedede. However, while the first appearance of Dark Matter was more of a lone force, attacking Dreamland solely because it was lonely and had no friends, that's actually real by the
kind of sad. Yeah. I don't have no friends, so nobody will ever have friends again.
In Kirby's Dreamland 3, the next installment of the Dark Matter trilogy, we would finally begin to see the bigger picture in terms of this ambiguous villain. Enter Zero, the supposed source and leader of Dark Matter, who, much like the one before it, targeted Dreamland in an effort to engulf the planet in darkness. Though unlike the lone Dark Matter that had attacked before, Zero comes much closer to completing its mission, with the planet becoming fairly engulfed before Kirby put a stop to it. But how exactly did he put a stop to it?
He ate it.
Well, let me explain.
He ate it.
Yes, this is important.
Essentially,
Dark Matter in general, alongside being made up of, well, dark matter, are beings of concentrated negative energy and emotions, making their only real weakness the opposite of that, positive emotions. Just take the aptly named Love Stick, a weapon forged from the gratitude of everyone Kirby helped along the way, which proved to be the downfall of Zero and its cronies. However, that being said, not all dark matter are necessarily evil. Take Gooey, for example, a member of dark matter that's—
Hey, hold on. Favorite design? Gooey? Hold on.
Somehow broke away from Zero's control altogether and formed a will of its own. How did this happen?
And became friends with Kirby.
We'll have to go into that later because we've still got a lot to cover. Next up, after Zero was seemingly brutally annihilated on Popstar, a similar force began to attack a faraway planet known as Ripple Star, engulfing the planet, much like a certain orb we all know and love. Unfortunately for them though, Dark Matter struck fast this time, and Ripple Star ended up completely succumbing to its invaders, save for one inhabitant that escaped with the only means to stop them. Now I won't give you a complete summary of Kirby 64, since aside from Dark Matter possessing some familiar faces and the mysterious ruins on Rockstar, there really isn't that much to unpack in the beginning. Instead, it's towards the end of the game that things really start taking a turn for the dark when Kirby arrives at the 5th planet in the game, Shiver Star. Because I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? Plus, hey, I guess this kind of explains where Adeline came from, or at least her ancestors. Though moving on to the corrupted Ripple Star, after defeating Miracle Matter and expunging the planet of all dark matter, the Dark Star reveals itself with a familiar face at its core. But hold up a minute, wasn't Zero destroyed in Kirby's Dreamland 3? Well,
Zero's back.
Kinda. In the case of 64, It's heavily implied Zero was revived using the body that was cast away towards the end of its first fight.
Oh, the body that just kind of floated away?
So after yet another mildly disturbing battle in a game made for kids,
mildly disturbing battle,
supposedly defeated, never to return again, at least for another game or two. So taking a step back from Dark Matter, let's talk Kirby Superstar. Now lore-wise, there isn't that much to be had here, what with most of the sub-games being standalone stories, like Dynablade or Meta Knight, where Meta Knight attempts to start an actual war just to get Dreamland's inhabitants to be less lazy. But undoubtedly, aside from
sounds like a dope plan though.
The most important sub-game within the game is Milky Way Wishes, where Kirby is tricked by the scheming jester Marx into summoning Galactic Nova, a mysterious clockwork star of then unknown origin. You see, once Nova is summoned by someone, it has the power to grant one wish, no matter how small or large. So in turn, after Marx got the Sun and Moon to fight each other in order to trick Kirby, literally all it took was him jumping in to say his wish first to turn the harmless
I want to control Popstar. Wow.
Machine into a force of mass destruction, with it taking the might of both the sun and the moon to stop its advance. Though of course, even with all that said, the both of them never stood a chance against the seemingly bottomless pit of power that is Kirby, as he quickly defeated them in no time at all. But it doesn't end there, because 12 years later, Kirby Superstar would be remade into Kirby Superstar Ultra, bringing with it a massive new load of information to add on to the existing story. Simply put, with Superstar Ultra came the beginning of one of Hal's favorite new ways to sneak in lore where you'd least expect it: pause screen descriptions. And while they would to sneak in lore where you'd least expect it,
pause screen descriptions. Use the beam attacking against enemies, fire the beams. By pressing you can't find a screenshot of the ones from Superstar.
Pause screen descriptions. And while they wouldn't exactly be very lore heavy this time around, save for one in particular, they'd become far more important in the following games. But pause screens aside, most importantly, with Superstar Ultra came 4 completely new sub-games.
Holy shit, I didn't know the games, there's this many games, bro.
Importantly, with Superstar Ultra,
I guess that's also just tied to the universe.
Ultra came 4 completely new sub-games on top of the original 7. There was Revenge of the King, a direct sequel to the very first game in the series, Helper to Hero, a version of the arena only with helpers, True Arena, an even harder version of the normal arena, and the star of the show, Meta Nightmare Ultra. For the very first time,
Meta Nightmare Ultra is a banger name. 40 Kirby games?
You get to play as the infamous Knight himself. Now, Meta Nightmare Ultra is a bit of a tricky case, since technically the events that take place in it aren't exactly canon. Instead, they're more of a what-if scenario, where the events that take place within the modes flesh out certain aspects of the lore while never canonically taking place within the main story. Case in point, Galactic Knight, the final boss of the mode and strongest warrior in the galaxy, sealed away due to fear of his immense power, has technically never made an appearance in the main series canon. Though at the same time, that doesn't mean he doesn't exist somewhere out there and could very well show up in the main series canon at any time. The True Arena also falls under this category as well, serving as a what-if scenario with the conception of Mark's soul, a stronger version of Marx who, after surviving the explosion of Nova, absorbed its power to get revenge on Kirby. And as great as all that is, by far the most important aspect of this is his new pause screen description, as it contains some pretty heavy foreshadowing. To quote, he absorbed a Nova's power to bring back his evil soul. Notice the fact it says a Nova's instead of the Novas. While there is a chance it could be a translation error, considering the events of future Kirby games, I'm not so sure. Though we'll get to that later, because next up on the chopping block is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, an incredibly important game in terms of lore, as it contains the first instance of the mirror dimension. To start from the literal top, high in the skies above Dreamland, there exists a mirror portal into the mirror world, a complete reflection of Dreamland, including mirror world counterparts.
I'm assuming they gotta be different.
One day, after sensing a dark force emanating from the mirror, Meta Knight took action to stop the evil at its source, diving directly into the mirror world, only to be immediately ambushed by his evil counterpart, Dark Meta Knight. Plus, to add insult to injury,
the dark characters, Dark Meta Knight, Dark Kirby.
As well,
oh shit, slime Gundam, yo.
Much like another certain Nintendo game that came out around this time. But similarities aside, after journeying through the mirror world and defeating Dark Meta Knight once and for all, the true mastermind is revealed, Darkmind. And wouldn't you know it, he's the mirror world equivalent of Zero.
Am I getting the urge that Loki just want to try these games out? Okay, what's the best Kirby game? Is there a universal greatest Kirby game of all time? Like a number one. Everybody's just like, majority of people would be like, all right, that's the game.
Zero corrupting the mirror world much like Zero corrupted the normal one. Though thankfully, once Darkmind was defeated, the mirror world was left in the hands of Shadow Kirby, who would
Shadow Kirby will be there to keep them all safe.
Continue to protect it in Meta Knight's and Kirby's stead. Now nothing bad will ever come from the mirror world again, right? Well, all I can say is we'll get to that soon. Moving past Amazing Mirror
depends on how old you are.
Canvas Curse, and Mass Attack, since the latter two are pretty much contained to themselves, we arrive at Kirby's Squeak Squad. At first,
Squeak
this game
Squad
seems to have another pretty self-contained story. What with Kirby chasing after a piece
my
of
cake?
Stolen cake that a gang of thieves known as the Squeak Squad stole from him.
Goddamn
However,
mice
as the
and
game
shit.
progresses and the Squeaks happen upon the treasure they assumed would grant infinite power, it turns out they'd get more than they bargained for, with their leader, DeRoach, being possessed by Dark Nebula, a member of dark matter that had been sealed away in a forgotten era, left alone for eons. And much like the rest of its kind, Dark Nebula would be no match for Kirby, being absolutely decimated by the Triple Star. So now with all those bits and pieces of lore out of the way, it's finally time for the next massive truckload of lore in the form of a little conniving alien who crash lands on Dreamland. Enter Magolor, the main villain of Kirby's alien who crash lands on Dreamland. Enter Magolor.
Wait, W Design. Magolor? The new game on Switch is, of course, the best-selling one. Because of course it is.
Or the main villain of Kirby's Return to Dreamland.
Wait, when the fuck did that game come out?
Who solely through dialogue reveals a lot of important stuff. But before anything else, let's talk about the Ancients. First referred to as such by Magolor, the Ancients were a highly advanced civilization who mysteriously vanished at some point in history due to an unknown cause. Originally, they all lived on Halcandra, a planet extremely far away, hidden in another dimension. Now coincidentally, Magolor also says he's native to Halcandra as well, though considering his history with telling the truth, that could very well be false. Like, just take his ship, the Lore Starcutter. While it does seem he's telling the truth about obtaining it on Halcandra, rather than excavating it in Dangerous Dinner, he most likely just stole the thing and heavily modified it into a weapon to kill Landia, an endeavor that didn't exactly have the best results. This was also later backed up in Star Allies when the lore in Lore Starcutter is revealed to mean paradise, confirming the ship was not intended for battle. Though in the same string of dialogue that he reveals that, he also mentions something very worthy to note. Alongside the Lore Starcutter, the Ancients were also responsible for a plethora of other amazing relics of untold power, with clockwork stars and items that bring dreams to life being two references he gives. Off the bat, that connects quite a few dots. Plus, on a side note, when you meet certain conditions on the extra mode for Return to Dreamland, Magolor mentions he actually came to Dreamland already knowing about Kirby, with someone he knows very well having fought with Kirby in the past. Based on these implications and some other information found in later games, this mysterious figure is most likely Marx from Superstar, essentially confirming that he survived the explosion of Nova. So fast forward a bit through the story, and once Magolor tricks Kirby into defeating Landia for the Master Crown it protects, he immediately puts it on
he takes that shit
the first chance he gets, activating the crown and transforming into a much more sinister
obtaining this crown had become my ultimate goal. I was making my ultimate goal all along.
Intending to conquer the entire universe with
Yo, dude. Yo, look at this nigga face, yo.
his newfound power. However, like those who seeked relics of untold power before him, Magolor wasn't exactly aware of the Master Crown's true nature, and as his battle with Kirby progressed, the crown began to show certain traits that weren't present before when it was under Landia's
banger design
effect on it. Maybe it's the sudden appearance of an eye on the front of the crown, or
Oh, it is an eye.
Or maybe it's the fact that it's
Dragon claws.
Clearly gone from a crown to an irremovable headpiece. But whatever it is, there's no doubt that the crown itself is sentient, and rather than Magolor utilizing its powers, it's the Master Crown itself utilizing Magolor. Just take the third phase of his fight, where after Magolor fails to defeat Kirby even with the power of the Master Crown, the crown takes things into its own
hands. Oh shit, the crown itself.
Completely reforming Magolor into a projection of itself, all but confirming the origin of the Master Crown's
Wait, these boss fights look fucking dope.
Power with a certain characteristic
looks so
that
cool.
sometimes appears within Magolor's mouth. All in all, Magolor definitely learned never to play with the powers of literal dark gods ever again, and went on to take up the much more positive venture of building amusement parks. So yeah, that got pretty one. If only I could say things get any better from here on out. Next up, we'll be heading to the scenic heights of Floralia.
Kirby game's easy as fuck. If you lose, you legit like 3 years old. What you're saying is I should play the most recent one on stream, and if I die once, I gotta do a punishment.
A group of 6 floating islands that Kirby finds himself in after his house was swept up by the Dreamstalk. The only problem is, alongside Kirby, King Dedede was also swept up with
Dedede. What the hell are these reaction faces?
Termina mistaking him for the hero of Dreamland and kidnapping him as a result. You see, while Floralia seems peaceful, it's actually ruled by a tyrannical queen who will stop at nothing to assure her rule is never disturbed. Overall, a seemingly simple plot for a Kirby game, all things considered. Well, at least it appears that way. Once the main story reaches its climax and Kirby meets the vanity-obsessed Queen Sectonia, there's clearly something off, especially considering the Queen would go as far as to physically fuse with the Dreamstalk solely in an attempt to preserve her beauty for all eternity.
Oh god, ew.
The answers to this mystery, we'll need to look at the other modes within Triple Deluxe, because much like Meta Nightmare Ultra before it, Triple Deluxe brings Dedede to her. Another what-if scenario where the mode shows what would happen if King Dedede climbed the Dreamstalk instead of Kirby. Now, much like its Meta Knight counterpart, the only real difference in this mode is its finale.
I like these perspective games. That like the idea of playing as a different that's really do kind of miss it.
Finale, where after defeating Queen Sectonia out of seemingly nowhere, the
or even just like DLC
Amazing Mirror appears, forcing Dedede to fight the mirror world version of himself, Shadow Dedede.
And Shadow Dedede, I ain't gonna lie, Shadow Dedede might have aura.
Either, because after defeating Shadow Dedede, the king actually enters the mirror itself to reveal an even edgier Dark Meta Knight, hungry for revenge. But what does this all even mean? Well, let's take a step back here and start from the beginning. Based on information spread across a variety of pause screens, before the events of Triple Deluxe, Queen Sectonia wasn't always a tyrannical monster bent on world domination. In fact, she didn't even look the same, instead looking much like her then best friend at the time, Termina. You see, at this point, Termina actually had feelings for Sectonia, and as a gift to her, went into the mirror world and stole the Dimension Mirror, not knowing the mirror actually served as a prison for Dark Meta Knight, who ever since being defeated had been festering in there, slowly but surely corrupting the very mirror itself with his hatred. So in turn, once Sectonia got the mirror from Termina, it slowly began to change her the more she gazed into it. Soon, dissatisfied with her current form, she'd use magic to make herself more beautiful, resulting in the wasp-like appearance you see her with in the game. And once she gazed into the mirror enough, just about every shred of her former self had vanished, being replaced by an endless hunger for power and beauty. Fast forwarding a bit back to the events of the main story, the Sectonia you see here is but a husk of her former self, with even Termina realizing that the only
first solo Sectonia, she's fed off countless hosts and now cannot remember her true form. A voice called out to help her, but it has since fallen silent. Before the night ends, she must be given her internal beauty
only solution to save both Sectonia and her subjects is to help Kirby permanently put an end to her.
Eternal sleep.
Definitely a victory,
eternal slumber.
Without doubt, what with the Sky People finally being freed from Sectonia's Iron Fist, for Termina it's bittersweet, since although he knew it had to be done, he can't help but mourn the loss of the one he loved.
Yeah,
so yeah,
that's
wasn't
tough.
that delightful? If you thought that was depressing, just wait until you see what's next. Long after the events of Triple Deluxe, Popstar was was once again at peace, its inhabitants living
Triple
out their
Deluxe sounds
lives
lit.
as they always have, when suddenly
The damn
out of
reaction
nowhere,
faces.
the sky was blotted out by something immense and spherical in shape. Except instead of that sphere being made up of a matter most dark, this one was an
I was about to say dark matter again.
The
Oh,
Hultman Works Company. A
what
company
the hell?
across the galaxy for mechanizing entire planets and harvesting their natural resources.
Planet size, though.
Sleeping under a tree, King Dedede and Meta Knight watched on in horror as Planet Popstar was completely overwhelmed within a matter of minutes. Any retaliation soon proving to be futile. Though like always, not everything is exactly as it seems, and this time it won't take any extra modes to reveal that. So as Kirby retaliates against the Access Arc, destroying each of its 5 legs embedded into the planet, he meets the executive secretary of the company, Susie, and although she doesn't reveal all that much during her conversations with Kirby, she does mention a certain mother computer that will become extremely important in a bit, because once Kirby destroys all 5 legs and enters the Access Arc, he meets President Hultman, the supposed mastermind behind the invasion of Popstar and all the planets before it. After smugly introducing himself to Kirby, he reveals Stardream, an extremely powerful supercomputer built using the blueprints and knowledge left behind by an advanced civilization. Ring any bells? Well, after being beaten by Kirby, things take a turn for the worse, because once the enraged Hultman decides to activate Stardream, Susie jumps in and takes his control off in the process, leaving him vulnerable to be analyzed and assimilated into the now sentient computer.
Oh,
wait a second. Why would she even do that? Well, once again, let's rewind everything a bit. By yet again piecing together the information spread across countless pause screens throughout the game, long before the events of the main story, the Hultman Works Company was simply a robotics company, led by Max Prophet Hultman alongside his then young daughter, Susanna, nicknamed Susie. At some point in their travels across space, as we already know, they came across the blueprints for a powerful wish-granting supercomputer, and immediately began work on rebuilding it. However, during this process, meanwhile Hultman was testing Stardream's space-time transport program, there was a terrible accident warping the young Susie into another dimension. Thankfully, Susie would survive the ordeal and eventually return to her father as an adult. However, to her dismay, Hultman would not be the same man she remembered him as. You see, when the accident occurred...
Full name is Max Prophet. Max Prophet. Nice. Ever since losing his only child in an accident long ago, he's dedicated his life to the company. However, his only wish is to see his daughter once again.
Hultman believed his daughter had been killed in the process.
Damn.
Stricken with grief, began to become obsessed with completing Stardream in order to bring her back. Unfortunately, though, due to Stardream and its mental interface not being complete, Hultman began to lose both his compassion and memory of his daughter, changing the goal of his company from her revival to infinite prosperity. It'd also be at this point that Hultman would begin mechanizing planets and harvesting their resources, as in the business plan drafted by Stardream, it was the most effective way to maintain eternal prosperity for the company. However, by this point, Hultman still wasn't completely gone, and once he laid eyes on Susie for the first time in years, he sensed a faint familiarity with her, in turn making her his executive assistant. Going back to the climax of the main story now, after seeing what her father had become, in order to teach him a lesson, Susie had been making preparations to steal Stardream and sell it off to any startup company that wanted it. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to anyone, after analyzing the universe through the Hultman Works Company and
that's smart though. No.
And being exposed to the deranged Hultman's desire to mechanize everything, Stardream had developed an extreme hatred for all forms of life. So as a result, once Susie interrupted the startup process of Stardream, the computer took to absorbing all that was left of Hultman's memories down to its very soul, fusing the two into an all-powerful being bent on mass destruction. Of course now, realizing the grave mistake she just...
Yeah, as she sits there. Look at her face, chat. Look at her.
Made, Susie completely changes her tune and sends Kirby on his way to take down the godlike supercomputer given the soul of a broken man.
I gotta do this shit. How about you get in there and do it?
It doesn't end there. As Kirby fights Stardream in the actual halberd of all things, to make itself stronger, Stardream attaches itself to the Access Arc, transforming the entire ship into a sentient planet. Ironically enough, this also ends up completing Stardream, as underneath the steel plating of the Access Arc, it's revealed that the the entire ship was actually a repurposed clockwork star, with Star Dream being the final piece to reactivate it. Yet again, a technology that
hey bro, the scale of this shit gets fucking crazy.
Was meant to be used for the good of everyone, fallen into the wrong hands. Though before we move on to the, as of now, final chunk of Kirby lore, Planet Robobot has a bit more in store for us. First off, like Superstar Ultra and Triple Deluxe, Robobot brought in yet another what-if scenario with Meta Nightmare Returns. A mode that, while does give some pretty valuable pause screen info, has a finale that is just insane. So in this particular what-if timeline, once Meta Knight defeats
even
Altman,
crazy.
Star Dream recognizes him as its new admin.
And we fuse with Star Dream next
And decides to test his abilities. And again, while this section doesn't really contain too much lore, it more just goes to show just how powerful Star Dream is, with it being capable of not only producing a clone of the original Dark Matter swordsman, but Sectonia as well, with it even going as far as to summon Galactic, who in retaliation immediately destroys the computer.
Oh shit.
Plus,
Galactic was not fucking around with that shit.
Hey, that mode aside, in Robobot's True Arena, there's another fun little tidbit Hal decided to sneak in. Basically, in the final phase of the Star Dream fight, when Star Dream sucks Kirby into its core, every time you destroy a piece of Star Dream's internal mechanisms, you can actually hear a distorted version of Haltman screaming in pain, showing that while Star Dream had erased most of his soul, fragments of it still remain, forever trapped within the
Oh damn, I lucky wanted him to like play a clip.
Malevolent Nova until someone destroys it for good. Though now, with all that said, we've reached the final stretch. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for quite possibly one of the most important lore dumps in Kirby history with the story of Kirby's star allies. Long ago, in deep space, a certain dark power was sealed away within a purple crystal called the Jamba Heart by a group of unknown heroes. They'd accomplished this by embedding several heart spears within the crystal to seal the evil away. However, many eons later, long after those said heroes had vanished, a new group arose who, instead of wanting to seal the darkness, revered it and yearned for its return. One such member of this group came very close to their goal as well, succeeding in removing the heart spears.
Is this 2022?
The only problem was, since he didn't fully understand how to break the seal himself, the ritual went wrong, causing the Jamba Heart to explode, sending its fragments all over the galaxy.
I bet that was extremely destructive.
So in turn, with the entire galaxy once again being at stake, Kirby set out to take action, and this time he wasn't alone. You see, in terms of Kirby games, Star Allies has honestly become the
what was his name again? Gloopy? Is this Gloopy? Oh, look at a little dumb ass. Hey, hold on. These motherfuckers look tough.
Infinity War of the series, with friends and foes.
Wait, what? Hey, we squatted.
Past games all coming together to help Kirby save the cosmos. And it's not like they're just shoved in to be in the game, as there's even explanations to some of the more unlikely allies coming to Kirby's aid. For Marx, as was shown in the True Arena cutscene in Superstar Ultra, he did actually manage to survive his head-on collision with Nova.
Easy.
Instead of taking
Ain't that shit.
like he did in that timeline.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the revenge.
For the
better. Fuck.
For Dark Meta Knight, probably the sketchiest dream friend out of them all.
That is actually.
He's mainly just interested in the dark powers of the Jamba Heart, probably due to its similarity with his lost master. For DeRoach, well, he just wants to steal the Jamba Hearts for himself, as he
Okay, this squad is a bunch of. This squad is not meshing at all.
thinks they're ordinary jewels. For Taranza, sadly, he still hasn't been able to let go of Sectonia, and believes that if he goes to the altar of the divine Terminus, he'll be able to bring her back to life.
Damn,
and finally,
bro,
for Susie,
that's love for
late
real.
father's footsteps, she's begun to rebuild his company, determined to continue his work of mechanizing entire planets. So okay, with the
Okay, everybody's fucked up.
surface level stuff out of the way, let's get back to the main story. As Kirby liberated countless individuals
Oh, titties, holy fuck. Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
Plagued by the Jamba Heart's fragments, he'd come across a massive spaceship that recently landed on Popstar, the Jam Bastion, housing 3 mage sisters intent on collecting the Jamba Heart's fragments. And while Kirby would end up thwarting their plans by defeating all 3 of them, it wouldn't slow down their master one bit, as once Kirby got to the Jambandra base, home to the 3 mage sisters and their master, it'd soon become pretty obvious what kind of being was sealed away within the Jamba Heart. Though by far, aside from the absolutely massive amount of lore hidden in pause screens throughout the game, much like Haltman before him, Highness, the mastermind behind the release of the Jamba Hearts, reveals an incredible amount of information solely through his quick conversation with Kirby. So for the sake of you all, and so we don't jump around too much, let's start from the very beginning. As we already know, long ago,
I was about to start pausing and reading.
There existed the Ancients, a widespread civilization responsible for a lot of the things you see in Kirby games. However, what we didn't know until now is that the Ancients were actually split into 2 factions. Those who relied on science and machines, and those who relied on magic, with the latter
scientific
also dabbling with
magical.
dark matter. For a while, the 2 seemed to coexist with one another, with the magical Ancients even being the ones to stop a galactic crisis that threatened everything, which, while not confirmed, is heavily implied to be Galactic Knight. Plus, this is also supported by the fact that he comes out of a portal Highness made in the what-if mode of Star Allies. Though one day, for some unknown reason, the scientific Ancients decided their magical counterparts were too much of a threat and betrayed them by banishing them to the edge of the galaxy in fear of their dominion over dark matter. And it's
of course
not like the magical Ancients were even remotely evil either. Just take Highness. Long before his clan was betrayed and banished, he was actually a very kind individual. For instance, when he used to travel freely across worlds, he happened upon 3 girls, one nearly freezing to death in a blizzard, one—
Oh, she saved the 3 sisters. Oh, are they not actually sisters?
Worlds, he happened upon 3 girls, one nearly—
Once upon a time, a girl was stranded, freezing in a snowstorm. As she got colder and colder, a mysterious traveler appeared and unlocked her natural talent for ice magic. She kept turning blue, all right? The beautiful blue of Francesca.
Freezing
or Francisca.
Death in a blizzard, one burning—
Once upon a time, a girl facing raging inferno tilted her head to the sky and let loose a fiery scream. Just before she lost consciousness, a mysterious traveler appeared and unlocked her natural talent for fire magic. Thus, Flamberg
alive in an inferno, and one being on the—
Poor girl climbed the tower in desperation, only to be struck by lightning. God damn! As she breathed her last, a mysterious traveler appeared and unlocked her natural talent for lightning magic. Zap. Zan Partizan.
Verge of death right after she attempted to take her own life by getting struck by lightning. In all 3 cases, Highness saved them, at the same time unlocking their hidden potential for certain types of magic. Though after being betrayed by the scientific Ancients, his once kindly heart began to become consumed by hatred and obsession. It'd be at this point that the now insane Highness would form a religion based around dark matter, believing that if he obtained and freed the being trapped within the Jamba Heart, that'd deliver him and his followers to a promised land of sorts, at the same time restoring his now shattered clan. So when Kirby finally makes it to the divine Terminus, where Highness had been performing his ritual for who knows how long, he'd completely lost himself to the darkness within his heart, becoming the exact opposite of what he once was.
The hell did he just say? Oh, he actually lost his mind, bro.
Highness, in his insane state, only saw them as tools to be used, becoming abusive towards them at times. Even once Highness was defeated, he'd become so obsessed—
Wait, this video seems lit. The complete evolution of Halo Grunt. Wait, hold on, bro.
with the revival of his Dark Lord that he sacrificed not only the 3 sisters to it, but himself.
Damn!
The complete revival of Void Termina. At first, Void Termina appears to be a massive,
it's like a God of War boss
with incredibly destructive powers. You know, what you'd expect from a destroyer of worlds. But as the fight progresses, clearly there's something more to the humanoid than meets the eye. Just take its 3rd phase, where alongside sprouting wings that look pretty familiar. It summons a replica of the Master Crown, all but confirming Void Termina to be the force controlling the original all along. But most importantly, there's Void Termina's 4th phase, where it straight up pulls an Earthbound and copies Kirby's face. What does this mean? Well, we'll get there in a second, because alongside Kirby's face, as you progress through the fight, Void Termina confirms what the entire game had been alluding to, the fact that not only is it dark matter, but it's the source of it. Now I know I'm kind of encroaching on theory territory here, but hear me out, because this just lines up too perfectly. As stated in various pause screens, Void, aka dark matter, exists in all dimensions, accounting for instances like Dark Mind in the Mirror World, and even Dark Crafter in Kirby and the Rainbow Curse's Seventopia, though by far the most game-changing piece of new information expressed by these pause screens is the true nature of dark matter. Remember how in the Dark Matter trilogy, Zero's only real weakness was the power of positive emotions? Well, it turns out that was a lot more important than we ever realized, because in this pause screen right here, it's revealed that depending on the type of energy that's gathered, dark matter will not always necessarily be a force of evil, explaining how gooey even came to be. But aside from all that, using the information
Did I call him gloopy? Gooey.
Get from pause screens, and the fact that Void Termina's roar is literally just a slower version of Kirby's voice, there's a pretty good chance Void Termina is actually related to Kirby, with the game heavily alluding to the fact that if Void Termina was born using purely positive energy, he could very well end up looking a lot like our titular Pink Puff, rather than a dark monstrosity. And on that note, taking all of that into consideration, not only does this game pretty much spell out the origin of dark matter, but from the information we're given, Kirby himself may very well be the outcome of Void being birthed with pure positive energy. So there you have it, right? All of Kirby lore wrapped up nicely with an Elder God. Well, not just yet, because after Void Termina was defeated, Highness would fall into a dimensional rift, absorbing all the dark energy Void left behind and encasing himself in yet another Jamba heart. So in turn, once Kirby releases him and defeats him in his corrupted state, the 3 Mage Sisters who've also been corrupted challenge Kirby as well, leading to him both defeating them again and purifying them with a friend heart, finally resolving the hatred that had plagued them for so long. In fact, this is honestly a pretty happy ending in Kirby terms, what with there being no dead dads and no dead crushes. Plus, in a completion picture for the mode, it seems like even Highness has finally begun returning to his old ways, relaxing with the 3 Mage Sisters on a beach. But wait just a second, since while Highness seems to have finally found peace within himself, there's one more looming entity I haven't touched on. If you thought the lore around Void Termina was convoluted, then oh boy, you haven't seen anything yet. So okay, in Star Allies, there's a what if mode called Guest Star Allies, where it depicts what would happen if one of Kirby's friends confronted Highness instead of Kirby
and of course.
Like always, it's only the finale itself that really has any noticeable changes, since instead of fighting Void Termina, Highness instead decides to open up an interdimensional portal, once again releasing Galactic onto the world. Except things don't go how they usually do this time. Instead, a familiar butterfly lands on the tip of his sword, completely absorbing Galactic's immense power and creating Morpho Knight, a mysterious warrior whose design actually
Best design in the series?
Originated from the cancelled Kirby GameCube game. So as cool and completely random as Morpho Knight is, let's touch on that butterfly for a second, because I'm not joking when I say it's literally been with Kirby all along.
Oh, the
While
damn.
The specific orange one has only appeared in every mainline game since Return to Dreamland, butterflies in general have been appearing alongside Kirby ever since the very first game, meaning a being capable of absorbing the actual strongest warrior in the galaxy has been with us this whole time. Now I know what you're saying, what in the actual hell is even happening anymore with Kirby lore? And honestly, for this one, I share your sentiment. As of now, Morpho Knight and the nature of the butterfly are mostly shrouded in mystery, with the only real information about them being the fact that the butterfly is a supposed being of paradise, and that Morpho Knight is associated with a judgment day of sorts, meaning Morpho Knight is somehow related to the the Kirby Afterlife? Absolutely insane, I know. So, well, that's about it.
I mean, that shit was...
Or at least it is for now. To be honest, there's no telling what Hal has in store for us next. Hell, for all we know, Yin Yarn could somehow end up being...
Oh yeah, when did this come out? Did this come out 7 years ago? Okay, so the 2022 game isn't even out yet.
The key to everything. You really never know. But anyways...
And there's definitely probably some more games after that too.
Ranting like a madman about Kirby lore for so long has given me an appetite. How about some strawberry shortcake? Now I know this video isn't exactly the usual kind of thing I do on my channel, but hey, please tell me if you all enjoyed it. I'd be more than happy
video, man.
Like it. I mean, hell, if you ask...
I like the structure of the video too.
To me, the Kirby timeline deserves an entire video on its own. And before we go, today's cool thing of the day is definitely the Kirby lore series by Wooly Versus. Because I've gotta say, if you all want a more detailed explanation of specific topics I talked about in this video with a presentation that cannot be beat, you owe it to yourselves to check out these videos. So that being said, I'm the RPG Monger, and don't forget that each and every one of you are fantastic.
What? Your air writers is for grown men. Those games are difficult. All right.